Hey guys, I did not want to make this video. Frankly, I am tired of talking about piloting as a topic, but unfortunately for me, as it turns out, I am the most principled, ethical, honest, moral, respectable, and honorable player in Rise of Kingdoms, which makes me the most qualified content creator to stand on business when it comes to the piloting topic. So that's what we're going to do today, because there's been some news, folks, and some of it is good news. Other news is in a little bit of a gray area, but as the one content creator who has never used pilots, my account has never been piloted, and I have never piloted somebody else's account. You guys have been turning to me for my thoughts and opinions on the recent piloting situation, and as a partner creator for Rise of Kingdoms, I have the best interests of the game in mind. So let's jump right in and break down what has happened over the last couple of days. As you guys may or may not know, there's a pretty big KVK happening right now in Rise of Kingdoms, and surprise surprise, some of the biggest players in those kingdoms are using pilots. What? Oh my god, I'm so shocked. I'm completely blown away. I can't believe it. Why would they do such a thing? That's insane. Now, just as a reminder, a few weeks ago, Rise of Kingdoms updated their anti-piloting pioneer experience measures, and the details were as follows. There are real-time restrictions if a substantial amount of unusual character login activity is detected within an alliance or kingdom in the span of 24 hours. An instant penalty will be triggered. All members of the alliance or kingdom will be restricted from dispatching troops on untrusted devices for 24 hours. Unusual login activity detection is based on a holistic review of IP address, multiple accounts on a single device, and other related data. There's also progressing severity here. In addition to real-time alliance or kingdom restrictions, individual characters that exhibit unusual login behavior will also have increasingly severe penalties, including not dispatching troops from untrusted devices. Okay, so this we've covered on the channel before. This is the rule set that this KVK launched into. This pioneer experience is live. Okay, now just I think it was yesterday, perhaps the day before, members of this KVK actually had this pioneer system triggered, and many players in these kingdoms had their accounts flagged for unusual character login activity. Now, unfortunately for Chiskel, he timed the purchase of his new PC pretty poorly because that device apparently was untrusted. Okay, however, Chiskel's situation is the outlier, not the rule, and virtually every other player who experienced this new troop dispatch restriction was in fact piloting. Okay, so as a result of that, there have been whale players coming out and protesting this new pioneer experience, saying, hey, look, if this is going to be the way that it is, we are going to stop spending, or we're going to spend less in the game because we don't need as many speed ups if we can't fight 24/7. And that is actually true. By that I mean you don't need as many speed ups, and so therefore you don't need to spend as much. Now, this got members of the community pretty flustered. They're saying, well, wait a minute, okay, the whales, they spend a lot of money in this game, and now they are threatening to no longer spend, and lots of people were kind of upset about this. They were worried about the future of Rise of Kingdoms, and by the way, as players, the business operations of Rise of Kingdoms are none of our concern. Okay, you don't have to lose sleep over stuff like this. They will have that handled. Okay, you are simply a player. Enjoy the game. But it is true that these threats were made, and let me be very clear, these were threats. They are threatening to no longer support the game, or in some instances charge back purchases that they have already made within Rise of Kingdoms. And folks, I'm going to share with you guys a little bit of wisdom that I've picked up along the way. Okay, to the best of your abilities, you should never capitulate and never negotiate with people that are willing to threaten you to get what they want, because if they are willing to threaten you and go to that extent, those individuals are not operating in good faith, and so you should never listen to them. You should never bend. You should never fold, because the moment that you do, the moment that you capitulate with them, then guess what happens next? They learn that their threats are effective, and it's only a matter of time before you do something else that they don't like later down the line, and then they will threaten you again. There is no winning with people like this. Okay, so I'm telling you this as just a general rule. If somebody is threatening you to the best of your abilities, you should never fold. They're not considering your best interests. They only care about themselves. So always make sure to remember that. Okay, now we did actually get an update from Rise of Kingdoms regarding this situation with all of these players having their accounts flagged. Okay, and this screenshot I got from Chiskel's video, where Rise of Kingdoms says that they have heard players' concerns regarding the new Pioneer anti-pilot piloting system, and here is what they are planning to do about it. Okay, so number one, optimize common device detection. In response to feedback from some governors regarding inaccurate common device detection and failure to consider some normal device switching scenarios, we will optimize the common device detection logic to cover most normal device switching scenarios. Okay, now this is, I mean, look, as far as I can tell, the only person affected by this was Chiskel. Okay, I mean, really, like, what are we even talking about? If they're too lenient with stuff like this, the whole thing makes no sense, right? I mean, if actually, bro, I forgot, I just got a new tablet for work, and I just logged in. Yeah, you're gonna have to make that. Okay, so you can see how quickly people are gonna come up with BS excuses here. So hopefully this doesn't fall too far into the leniency direction. However, in situations as Chiskel described, his new PC is plugged into the exact same outlet. It uses the exact same Wi-Fi network as his last PC. It would make sense that that would get a pass. Okay, so this makes sense from a logic perspective, but I just want to be very clear here that they need to be careful with how much they optimize this. Okay, because if you swing it too far in the leniency direction, all of a sudden your Pioneer test is worthless, right? The second thing that they said was that they were temporarily disabling alliance non-common device restrictions. Okay, now what does that mean? Let me return to the original mail. Okay, that's this first bullet point right here. Real-time restrictions based on a number of unusual character logins per alliance. Okay, so what this is saying is that the trigger on a per alliance basis is going to be disabled for non-common device restrictions before the common device algorithm update goes live. That's this first bullet point. As far as I can tell, we will temporarily disable the non-common device troop dispatch restrictions imposed on all alliance members due to alliance trigger. Okay, so as far as I can tell, they're specifying that the trigger that will be temporarily disabled is the alliance trigger, but they did not say anything about the individual character trigger that is in the second bullet point. Okay, remember, this says in addition to the alliance restrictions, individual characters that exhibit unusual login behavior will face increasingly severe penalties. Okay, so they're saying on an alliance level, we will disable the trigger until we figure out this top bullet point. However, they did not say anything about individual players actually triggering the new anti-piloting Pioneer experience. Okay, this is to prevent governors playing normally within the affected alliances from having their gaming experience impacted in some device switching scenarios. So they're saying, look, some people may have been caught in the crossfire here just by being a part of these alliances, and we've admitted that our common device detection system is not perfect. It's not up to standards. There's been some people that, you know, are unfairly affected. Okay, so to prevent that from being an issue, we're going to remove the alliance trigger temporarily. Okay, which is very good. What that means is the only people that will be triggering this throughout this KVK in theory should be the individuals that are actually doing the piloting. Okay, so that's good to know. For accounts that the system has clearly determined to be engaging in professional mass piloting behavior, the relevant restriction measures will continue to remain in effect. This is huge, folks, and this is the little bit of a W that we have here. This is a little bit of a win for those of us that are looking towards the developers to really crack down on piloting. Okay, they are not folding completely here. They're saying, look, some of you, it is so obvious, everyone knows it. You know who they are, I know who they are, everyone knows who they are. In fact, why don't you just put in the comment section below, who do you think was piloting in this KVK? Let's see in the comments how many people have the exact same answers. Okay, that's gonna prove my point. Everyone knows who's been piloting. Okay, let's just be honest. And if everyone knows, then clearly the system knows. Okay, and so for people that are clearly engaging in professional mass piloting behavior, the restrictions will remain in effect, at least according to this mail. That is a massive W. So kudos to Rise of Kingdoms and the developers. Really happy to see that. Okay, we remain committed to combating mass piloting behavior that undermines a fair gaming environment while also fully understanding governors' need for flexibility in device usage. We sincerely apologize, etc., etc. Okay, so this is really good news. And just to be very clear here, okay, because there's been a lot of people that are talking about, oh, well, what about this? What about that? What about the other thing? Okay, look, it's very obvious based on this mail that the developers of Rise of Kingdoms are specifically interested in combating mass piloting behavior, professional mass piloting behavior. What does that mean? Well, what is a professional? A professional is somebody who does something for money. Okay, okay? So the whole situation where, okay, you join a Discord and then you hire the entire Discord to play for you for 12 hours and they pilot your entire kingdom, that is most likely what is being specifically targeted here by the developers. Okay, if you gotta go, you know, you've got a big thing this weekend and it just so happens to be past 7 and your buddy logs in for you, you know, like, look, maybe that's not gonna flag the system, maybe that's okay. And like, honestly, if we're being honest here, okay, I hate piloting more than probably anybody. Okay, you all know this. I'm the only one who hasn't done it seems. Okay, so I mean, like, what are we talking about? But I can at least agree that the worst part about piloting is the professional mass piloting behavior. Okay, if a friend wants to log in, look, is that annoying? Sure. Should that be against the rules? Technically it is. Okay, it is technically against the rules. Do I want that in the game? No, not really. Okay, everyone should just play your own account. It's insane that we're even having this conversation, but we're never going to combat piloting 100%, right? I mean, we all know that, right? We all know that it's never going to happen. I think there were some whales saying that they're going to fly their pilots out to their house so they can play on their computer. And like, so look, like, clearly, okay, if people are going to go to those lengths, then there's not going to be a way to stop piloting 100%. Okay, there's just no way. So, okay, if we know that we can't stop 100% of piloting, we should at least stop the 80 or 90% of it that is actually plaguing the game. Okay, I don't care if your buddy logs in while you eat dinner. That's like, it's annoying. I wish it didn't happen, but like, whatever. Okay, this stuff, the mass piloting stuff, that's the stuff that literally ruins it. Literally ruins it. That's not, there's not even a little bit of wiggle room to mince my words there. It actually just ruins the game. Okay, so then the question becomes, is this enough? Right? Is this enough? Do I think that they're doing the right thing here? Well, the answer is we are moving in the correct direction. Absolutely, right? If they continue to have the individual player trigger that actually prevents uncommon device troop dispatch, we are moving in the right direction. The other idea that I've seen floated around, and this is kind of one that the developers have already thought about, except in a different way. There was the idea that, you know, perhaps kingdoms can vote before KVK if they want piloting or not, right? In the past, I believe that developers said that they were considering making the war frenzy limit something that alliances can vote on, right? And so it would be conceivable that they would just make piloting something people vote on as well, right? And look, again, I don't want piloting in the game. Straight up, there's no need for it. It's pointless. It's stupid, right? However, if they make it such that all kingdoms have to agree to allow piloting and then you get the green light, then I guess it's okay, right? Because then it's like, okay, well, if all the, let's say there's 8 or 10 kingdoms in a KVK and all of them want to use pilots and they're only fighting amongst themselves and they're just off in their own little corner doing whatever it is they're doing, paying other people to play their video games for them, as long as it doesn't affect the 95% of the player base that hates pilots, I suppose I have no problem with that, right? But it's still like, from a game reputation perspective, it just feels so stupid, man. There's just no other word for me to pick. I mean, it's so ridiculous, right? But if they're not going to do the voting system where 100% of the kingdoms have to agree, then I think they should just continue using their current strategy, continue to fine tune it, continue to make it better, and continue weaning the whales off of the piloting pacifier. Okay, and the reason that I say this is because, you know, look, they might come out and say, oh well, we're gonna stop spending in the game, and it's like, man, I'm gonna be honest, I don't think so, really. I really don't think so. I mean, sure, some small percentage of whales will slow their spending in the short term. Okay, that's what will probably happen. But you might be saying, well, Omniarch, what if they're serious, right? Like, these guys spend a lot of money. What if all the whales stop spending, right? And the reason that I think that they won't is because we see this kind of thing happen in the real world all the time. There is a psychological phenomenon called the collective action problem. Sometimes it's called the prisoner's dilemma. And essentially what the prisoner's dilemma is that all of the suspects here, in this case all of the whales that are considering no longer spending, they would collectively benefit from cooperating with one another. However, psychology says that individuals will always choose what's in their own best interest, and there will always be inevitably a scab or a defector. Somebody will break. Somebody will say, look, all these other people stop spending and those happen to be my enemies this KVK, so if I just spend a little bit, we get to crush them them and get a victory, right? And at the end of the day, this is a war game. So if you want to go off and complain about this, that, or the other thing, the best way to handle those players is crush them in KVK. Absolutely destroy them in KVK. And then guess what happens? Well, people aren't going to want to play with them. They want to play with winners. Okay. They want to play with people who actually win KVK, and the problem eventually solves itself. And at the beginning of the video, I said that I have Rise of Kingdoms best interests in mind here. And what I mean by that is like, look, there will be some tension. Okay. There's going to be people that, you know, they've been piloting for 5-6 years and they've been using pilots, and like, that's the game that they love. And now that they can't do that, or they won't be able to continue doing that, potentially they don't want to play anymore. They want to quit. Okay. And like, look, all I gotta say is if the idea of you having to play your own video game is going to cause you to quit Rise of Kingdoms, then maybe you just didn't really like the game to begin with. Maybe you're lost in the sauce, right? I mean, like, let's just call it how it is. If being forced to actually play your own account is going to cause you to quit the game, then you were probably going to quit anyway, right? And it sounds a little bit ridiculous because if you take a step back and you think like, okay, well, you know, these whales are upset and they say that they're going to spend less or stop spending altogether. Well, why would they be upset that they have to spend less, right? You might think about it like that, like, okay, well, they need less speed ups to play KVK, and well, now their account's not going to be online 24/7, so they actually don't have to buy as many bundles to play at that highest level, right? You might think that they would be happy about that. I sure would be happy about that. If I could continue to play the game at the same level with spending less, I would be happy about that, right? But the reason that the whales are so upset here is because they're actually about to get exposed, and they know it, right? They know that once piloting goes away, everyone's going to look at their accounts and say, wow, actually the person who runs that account is not, they really don't play that much, right? They don't get that many kill points. They've been LARPing as this super giga kraken for the last 4 years, but they actually don't really even play the game. They just hire other people to play for them, right? And this is a big ego thing, right? It's all an ego thing. A lot of these whales are going to get exposed for just really not even playing their own account, playing the game in general, and it's going to make them look bad, frankly. And that's the only reason I can think of as to why they would be upset that they now have to spend less money on the video game, right? But the good news about all of this is that if we are able to move past this piloting situation, what happens is we actually create an end game experience that more people will be willing to play or actually enjoy, right? I know myself, like, I am totally sick of piloted KVKs. I am at my limit. There's nothing worse than watching your alliance have downtime, your kingdom have downtime, and your enemies are online all the time, right? I mean, there's really nothing, there's no worse feeling than that. It's almost futile, right? And if I were a new player and I knew that was the end game meta, right? If I was coming into a brand new game knowing, okay, the end game meta is to hire people from other countries to play the game for you, I would simply never touch that game ever with a 50-foot pole, right? It would never occur to me. Like that's just insane, right? I mean, I know all of us are in this little Rise of Kingdoms bubble and we're arguing amongst ourselves, but like, let's zoom out to the video game industry as a whole, okay? And in order to do that, I'm going to share with you guys a little bit of my story of the last year, or maybe not story, but my experience, okay? A couple of weeks ago, I beat Hogwarts Legacy for the first time, and I promise you this is relevant, okay? I promise, just bear with me. I played Hogwarts Legacy when it came out. I put about 20 hours in and I put it down. Recently, I started a new file and I played the game all the way through. Fantastic game. If you love Harry Potter, I say you should definitely give it a try, especially the last hour and a half, 2 hours of the game where I was spamming Avada Kedavra because of course I was a dark wizard, but it was a blast, okay? And before I beat Hogwarts Legacy, I actually replayed through Pokemon Soul Silver. When I got back from Japan, I had that itch to really go back to Johto and beat the game that I've beaten that game probably 20 times, but I wanted to play it again, okay? And then in April, I think it was, I played through Fire Red, which I've beaten that game probably 50 times, but I replayed it again and it was a fantastic time. And then back in March, I was playing Pokemon Pokopia, right? I played that with my girlfriend. We played that for about 3 weeks straight. We had a really good time. Before that, I played Elden Ring. Actually, I beat Elden Ring for the first time this past winter. I played a bleed build with a katana and a shield. Some of the bosses, I used dual wield katanas just so I could DPS them down, but I just wasn't good enough with my dodging to only rely on dodging, so I had to use the shield. You guys understand if you've ever played Elden Ring, okay? But that's one of the best games I've ever played. It was a phenomenal game, right? Absolutely incredible game. I put probably 80 hours into that game or something like that, okay? Prior to Elden Ring, I played Oblivion Remastered. I played Donkey Kong Bonanza, and over the last 12 months, there's been a handful of other games that have fallen in there in the cracks, you know, things that I just picked up for a little bit. And I tell you all of this to say that all of these games I played for fun, okay? I played all of these games for fun. Now, I could have just as easily gone on Reddit and said, hey, does anybody, you know, I'll pay you $200 if you go ahead and just beat Hogwarts Legacy for me. Or I could call up my best friend and be like, hey, do you mind playing through Elden Ring for a fourth time, but this time just do it on my account, right? And you might say, Omniarch, well, why would you do that, right? Those are single player games. Well, the answer is trophies. On the PlayStation 5, you can get certain trophies for different accomplishments and beating certain aspects of games, right? So when they look at your profile, they can say, oh my God, Omniarch is this really awesome god gamer. He's so good at video games. Oh my God, look at all these games he's beaten, right? But I didn't do that. I didn't do that because the point of video games, I need to hold your hand, don't I? I need to hold your hand when I tell you this. It's to have fun. It's to have fun. What are we talking about? What are we talking about? It is to have fun, okay? And when I go from the more broad gaming industry and then I return back to Rise of Kingdoms because, okay, KVK is coming up, or okay, Pass 7 is here, Kingsland is here, it's a totally different reality in the Rise of Kingdoms bubble, right? It's completely different to a degree that to outsiders, it makes absolutely no sense. Now you might be thinking, Omni, well, you know, those are single player games, so it's not really the same thing. No, it is the same thing. You're missing the point. The point is that video games are fun. You're supposed to be having fun with these things. And if you reach a point with a video game where you have to be online 24/7, and now you have to hire other people to play your video game for you, okay, we've removed ourselves from reality. Okay, we are no longer in reality anymore. You are now treating this like a job. Okay, so if I don't like editing my videos, I can hire somebody to edit my videos for me, right? But that's a job. I don't like editing, and therefore I can hire someone to do it for me. It's more of a productivity thing rather than an enjoyment thing. And I think that's the thing that people forget about Rise of Kingdoms. The game is really good as a mobile strategy game. Rise of Kingdoms is actually fantastic, right? But people are treating it like a job. And when the end game meta is basically akin to employment, full-time employment, okay, then think about what that does to the outsider looking in. They're looking at this game and they're like, what do you mean people are playing for you? What the heck? No, dude, no, I'm just gonna go play Fortnite. Like they're just not gonna do it. Why would anyone do that? It makes no sense. So I share all of this with you to remind you guys the purpose of a video game, okay, why piloting is so stupid. And by the way, the reason that I know everyone agrees with me on this is because Elon Musk literally still gets clowned to this day for his Diablo 4 piloting. Do you guys remember that? Remember when it was revealed that Elon Musk, who was bragging about being, oh, he's top 10 on the Diablo 4 leaderboards, he's this super god gamer, he's so good at strategy games, oh my God, he's so smart, oh, he's just like us, oh, he's so freaking cool, right? And then when he actually live streamed the game, even amateurs at Diablo were like, wait a minute, this guy doesn't play this game. There's no way he plays on this level, because he was making mistakes that were just too obvious, right? You clearly, if you were making the mistakes he was making, he just doesn't play on the highest level. He simply does not. There's absolutely no way. And then it was revealed that he pays people to level and play his account, and that's how he got to the top 10 on the leaderboard, right? And people clown him for that to this day. Why? Because it's ridiculous to have people play video games for you. That's the reality. That's what people think in the real world, okay, outside this little bubble, right? They look at that and they say, wow, that's like really pathetic and sad, right? Like, he's got multiple kids to raise, he's got multiple companies to run, and he's like paying people to play a game and lie about it so he can get like internet clout amongst the gaming community. Like, it's just pathetic. That's what real people think when they hear you pay people to play video games for you. That's not my opinion. Overwhelmingly, that was the opinion of everybody on the internet when that came out. But in some ways, piloting in Rise of Kingdoms is even worse than what Elon did with Diablo 4, because Rise of Kingdoms is exclusively a PvP game, and the piloting experience for some people actually ruins the game for everybody else, right? And so you might say, okay, well, you know, this is how the whales like to play the game. If this is how they like to have fun, what's the big deal, right? Well, the big deal is that their fun is not the responsibility of the rest of the community, right? And like, frankly, people will just stop playing if they have to keep dealing with piloting because it's unfair and it's unfun. So eventually what happens is, if enough of the community continues to get neglected and continues to experience a negative gameplay environment as a result of piloting, then they leave and the player base shrinks, and then the whales are just fighting each other, and then there's nothing left, right? That's what happens, and the player base contracts all the way down to that core, right? And the idea with removing piloting, right? Okay, sure, there's going to be some percentage of the community that, you know, spends less money, or they stop spending, the boycott, whatever the case might be, but with a more fair and competitive end game experience with the removal of piloting, then perhaps the game will be in a situation where it can attract more whale players, right? More spending players. I mean, really, in business, one of the worst things that you can do over the long term is rely on the exact same audience, the exact same customers, suppliers, or whatever, because if something happens to them, then your business is screwed. This is why those hustle culture gurus always say, oh, diversify your income. You want to have multiple streams of income, right? And like, they're not wrong, but it's kind of a meme at this point. But the idea is that, like, if you only have one job and you get fired, you get laid off, well, then you're screwed, right? All your money was coming from one place. And it's kind of the same thing in this way, where if you just keep relying on the same whales for years and years and years, eventually they're going to leave. I mean, people have lives, things change, things happen, right? They don't have time, they don't have money, they have new kids now, whatever the case might be, right? So even from like just a fundamental perspective, like, it's in Rise of Kingdoms' best interest to find more whales, right? I mean, you just want to find the whales, go whale hunting, okay? And it's easier to convert a regular gamer to an enjoyer of Rise of Kingdoms if they know that they don't have to hire people to manage their account at the end game. It's ridiculous, right? And so when I go, this was the whole, I'm circling this all back here now, okay? When I go from the more broader gaming niche of playing Hogwarts Legacy and Elden Ring and all these other games that like are just regular games that everyone's enjoying, right? Those people that enjoy all those games, they won't play Rise of Kingdoms if they know that piloting is a thing, if that's the end game meta, right? And so that's how all of this kind of connects together. Hopefully you guys have been able to follow my train of thought here. A better end gaming experience is appealing to more gamers in the broad video game niche, and those players are the answer to solving the problem of the handful of people that might spend less or boycott or whatever the case might be. So this is my friendly reminder to you, okay? Video games are for fun, and if they get rid of piloting, yes, that means you don't have to pay someone to play for you, and yes, that means you probably need to buy a few fewer bundles. Great news, you can save a few $1,000s a month, few $100s a month, whatever. And then you might say, well, okay, well, now I can't play at the highest level, right? If I can't have pilots, I can't play all 24/7. How am I supposed to compete at the highest level? It's like, okay, well, listen closely, okay? You don't have to compete at the highest level to have fun. I haven't been playing in Imperiums basically my entire time. There's been a couple times where 1568 touches Imperium, but for the most part, I haven't played. My entire Rise of Kingdoms journey has been in an A seed pretty much, but you could even go to a B seed or C seed or whatever, move to a kingdom with people that just want to have fun, that actually just play the game. And great news, if you can't pilot, that means your enemy can't pilot, and so everybody's on the same level playing field anyway. I mean, we're all adults here, right? I see my analytics, 97% of you are men, and all of you basically are above the age of 25. So you all everyone's got jobs, we all have lives, right? We all have things to do. There's obligations, there's family, there's traveling, there's things that come up, right? Okay, so you run a business and you can't play 24/7. That's fine. No, if piloting is gone, no one's going to expect you to be online 24/7. You understand? Because no one can do that. I mean, maybe there's a small handful of people that are retired, or because their job is, you know, you're an anesthesiologist technician and you kind of just sit there on your phone 90% of the time, whatever. Like, there's going to be some people that can be online for a shocking amount of time, okay? But those are the people that should be in the really competitive kingdoms where they can be online all the time. But if you can't do that, that's okay. That's totally fine. Play wherever you want. Play wherever makes you happy. Like, again, the whole point of me sharing my video game journey is to remind you that this is a video game. You should be having fun with this. Anyway, guys, at this point, I'm kind of just rambling, but hopefully you guys can understand sort of my opinion, where I'm coming from here. I'm trying to yank you guys back to reality, okay, so you can enjoy your life again. Kudos to the developers for not fully capitulating here, at least at the time of recording this. All right, it looks like they're still going to be restricting individuals engaging in professional mass piloting behavior, so I am very positive about that. I'm very happy to hear that, so good for them. That is the correct decision in my opinion, but we will have to wait and see with how the rest of this KVK goes, and I'm curious to know what your thoughts are in the comments section below. Let me know what you think about piloting, anti-piloting, whatever the case might be. Drop a thumbs up on the video because this video is going to be mass dislike bombed by the pilots and by people who use pilots, so please help me fight them off by leaving a like down below, and consider subscribing to the channel if you're new here, and even if you've seen a bunch of my videos, you're probably not subscribed. Double check down below. With that being said, guys, thank you so much for watching. This has been Omniarch. I'll talk to you guys again soon. Peace.